welcome to the webinar of Living Wisely series. This webinar is based on this book Living Wisely and Living Well, written by Swami Kriyananda. Today is December 11 and the reading of today says, attachment binds one to things in the way that unripe fruit clings to its branch, even when buffeted by high winds. Be like a ripe fruit, which instantly drops when it is brushed by a mere breeze. At the slightest hint of adversity, remember God and release your grasp on the tree branch of delusion. I like to begin with a story which is taken from the spiritual classic Autobiography of a Yogi, written by Swami Yogananda. The young Yogananda Ji, when he was in ashram of Ranchi, he had a great affection for a baby deer. The affection was so great that the deer used to sleep in his own room. One day, Yogananda Ji had to go out of Ranchi. So he told his disciples to take care of the deer, but not to feed him too much milk. In the evening, when Yogananda Ji came back, the disciples told him that the deer was dying. So Yogananda Ji was struck with huge grief. He sat down in the room and meditated for about 3 hours. The deer got up and walked towards Yogananda Ji. Yogananda Ji was up in the night till about 2 a.m. and then he went to sleep. In his dream, the deer came to him and pleaded to him, "Please let me go." Yogananda Ji said, "All right." And he called all his disciples and said, "The deer is dying." The deer toddled, took a few steps, and fell dead at his feet. There was a great lesson to be learned over here. The deer came to Yogananda Ji in the dream and said to him that my evolution at the phase of an animal is over. I'm supposed to go for a higher form. I plead to you, release me, let me go. And Yogananda Ji realized that on account of his attachment and also on account of the power of his prayers, of his meditation, the deer could not go or did not want to go. So what is the lesson that we learn here, friends? The lesson is the person of non-attachment understands the people we love, they are all expressions of God. When they depart in death, when they leave us, they go to the divine for a brief resting period. And this applies to any kind of attachments that we have in life. We have to understand that all attachments are temporary. They are with us for a brief while. They may give us a lot of joy, or I should say pleasure, briefly, but ultimately it must go. Now, let us understand what is attachment. I like to explain it more, what is non-attachment. The non-attachment is not to accept as one's own anything which is his by right. How strange is that? Anything that is mine by right, it isn't mine. Let me illustrate this in the words of Sister Gyanamata. Sister Gyanamata was the most advanced yogi of Yogananda Ji in America, a woman disciple. When she came on this spiritual path, she says she could understand that on the spiritual journey, we must give up the things which are not right. But the biggest challenge came to her when she realized, when she was told that she had to give up the things which are hers by her right. Which things which are her own, the things which harmed no one, things, little small things, little small joys of God in terms of some comforts. She had to give up everything. She says she struggled a lot to understand this point, that the thing which is mine by my right, why do I need to give it up? When she was going through this dilemma, an advanced soul came to meet her, maybe directed by divine, and they had a talk for a long time. When he was leaving, he said to Sister Gyanamata, "Sister, understand, there's nothing which is our own. Everything is a phenomena." What does it mean? Everything that we own, everything that we are attached to is with us for a short while. It is on a loan to us. Non-attachment is definitely a path to success. Attachment is binding. Non-attachment gives us a larger perspective of things. Why? Because when we are non-attached, our mind is free. Our mind, our energies are not focused on one particular thing of our attachment. So we can see the larger perspective of things. Whereas attachment is restraining. We never get to see the larger picture. And when we have the larger picture of the things, we can take better decisions. If we want, let us say for example, a particular job very much, we are so emotionally attached to the idea of getting that particular job so much that we have at the same time a lot of fear going within us. What if I don't get it? What if my colleague gets it? So with these fears, our positive efforts, our negative efforts, all are contradicting each other. And it's not the best case for a success. So also it is very important, if we want to develop non-attachment, Swami Kriyananda said, practice giving. What did he mean? He meant was that whatever things of our attachment are, we can get them. We can buy them. I'm talking more about the material objects, but we don't have to hoard them as possessions. Give them away to the people who might need them more. And it is in giving that we receive blessings. It is in giving that we receive non-attachment. There's a story of Mother Teresa. Some of us may know, long ago there was a big famine in Calcutta. And there were a lot of people who had nothing to eat. Mother, with her saintly heart, cooked some rice, and she was going from door to door where the poor people lived. She was told in one room there was a mother living with 4 children who had not eaten for 4 days. Mother knocked at the door. She went in. She gave the rice to the lady. The lady took half the rice, and half the rice she gave back to the mother. Mother looked at her. Why? She says, in the neighbor room, there's another lady with 4 children, and they also have not eaten for 4 days. This is giving. This is blessing. This is giving with no motive, no interior desires that if I give this, I will receive that. And this is true non-attachment. This is true non-attachment, which helps us to progress in the path of our spiritual journey. Now it brings us to the point how the attachment was created. God decided to have a little bit of fun. He created a perfect world with a perfect man. The man came to the world, meditated, and went back. God tried the same thing second time. Second time also, the same thing happened. The man, perfect man, merged with God. So God decided to do something different. He created the world, but he added delusion, Maya to it. And at the same time, he told the man that I'm not going to leave you high and dry. He gave him discrimination and willpower. He said, I'm giving you discrimination and willpower so that you can navigate through Maya, through delusion. You were the perfect man. But when the man came and when he saw all pleasurable sense objects around him, desires were awakened to him. Likes and dislikes, desires fulfilled, desires unfulfilled. Fulfilled desires created more desires, and man created attachment to the sense objects. What happened? The life force, which was so far flowing inward, started flowing outward. So, with all these attachments, what happens, friends? Well, for a short while, for a brief while, we're enjoying them. There's a lot of pleasure. There's a lot of pleasure in eating an ice cream, even though I may have diabetes. I don't want to get it, but as an example. But is the result good? No. So this is what attachment causes us. It causes us unhappiness, sorrow. Now, I want to go on. What are the forms of attachment? Swami Yogananda says that attachment or love has two forms. The one form we all know very well. That's human attachment, which is personal attachment. And the other one is divine love or divine attachment or impersonal love. When we have the human love or the personal love, what happens with that? Our love is selfish. It is conditional. It is constrained. It is limiting. But the divine love is selfless. It is unconditional. It is unchanging. Which is more beautiful? We are all human beings and we are trying to progress. We are trying to go on the higher path. We haven't achieved the impersonal love yet. But once we know our goal, and we know our goal why? Because every human being wants to be happy eternally, doesn't want to go through the cycle and up and down of joy and sorrow, joy and sorrow. So we have to practice moving from personal love to impersonal love. There is a very interesting story about this. We have heard about Radha G. She was a perfect example of the highest devotee of Krishna and also of impersonal love, of divine love. One day, Radha G got caught for a brief while in delusion, and she felt she possessed Krishna. And with that, in the evening when Radha and Krishna were walking, Radha said to Krishna Ji that I am tired. Krishna Ji turned around and said to Radha, do you want me to carry you? He picked up Radha and he was carrying her on his back. A thought flashed in Radha's mind, how pleasing is this? Krishna, next moment, Radha found herself on the ground. Krishna had vanished. Radha realized her folly. She sat down and prayed for Krishna's forgiveness. What happened in the whole story? What happened was that wherever there is divine love, wherever there is impersonal love, we cannot have any possessiveness. We can never have this thought, it is mine. We have to transcend beyond our ego consciousness, the feeling of belonging, my things, my Krishna. It's very important to understand this fact, this point of possessiveness in the impersonal and the personal love. The attachment has been defined in the Bhagavad Gita very beautifully in 2 Sanskrit words. And these words are Nishkam Karma. Doing our actions without worrying about the result. We do our role, we do our function, but not focus on the result. What happens with that? When we are functioning without focusing on the result, our focus, our concentration is 100%. But the moment we have a particular desire in our mind and we want a particular result out of that, our focus goes more towards that result than the efforts that we are making. We want to buy a house, I'm collecting money, but at the same time the fear comes in, what if I don't have enough money to buy that house? What if somebody else buys it before me? And so on and so on. All this snowball of the thoughts go on. So what happens with that? One side I'm trying to work hard and gather more money. On the other side, our negative thoughts are negating the same effort. So it is a cross current of the satanic thoughts and the spiritual energy. So the result can never be the best outcome. So friends, the Nishkam Karma is that we make our efforts, we do our actions, but not worry about the results. I'm here speaking, I'm also human, and I know it is tough. We get inspired only when we know that we're going to get this thing. But now we can at least understand that when we make our efforts and then we try to concentrate more on the efforts than the result, that the worry factor, which takes away so much of our life force, so much of our positive energy, that all that will be included in our efforts. So focus on the efforts more, friends. All of us should do that. Now, it brings us to the point, what is the way out? How do I really develop non-attachment? Swami Kriyananda, in many of his books, has mentioned this practice. He says, in the night, when we go to sleep, he says, sit in a chair, close your eyes, focus at the spiritual eye, and gather all your attachments of the day or of the earlier times. Gather all your negative thoughts. Gather everything that you might have hurt anyone in the daytime. Gather all this up and bring it up to the spiritual eye. Build a bonfire at the spiritual eye and offer it to the divine. You have cleansed yourself of all the attachments, of all the negative thoughts. And friends, when we go to sleep in the night, whatever our last thoughts are in the subconscious mind, they keep circulating throughout the night. But if we do this practice, we have cleansed our mind and we sleep with a clean mind where we have thrown away all our attachments, all our negative thoughts in this bonfire. Second is accepting life as is. Nobody's life is perfect. Everybody can think, oh, I could do better in this area. When we look at our friends, we may feel, oh, in this area, my friend is better than me. But what about the areas in which we may be better than the others? We tend to overlook that. So accept life, because when we do not accept and when we are not contented with what we have, in a way we are violating the spiritual law. We must allow the life to continue the way it has been given to us by God. And what life today we have, friends, I just want to say in one sentence, it is driven by karma, law of karma. What we are today, it is our own creation. If there's some parts of it we don't like, it is us who has to undo it. Nobody else can do it. One more point is using the won't power. I like the word won't, W-O-N-T. It means the use of our willpower. The human being was given the willpower and discrimination to navigate through the delusion. So we have to use our discrimination. Neti, neti. This is not for me. This is not for me. And to succeed in that neti, neti, we have to use our willpower. It is not easy, but once we understand, we will try to move in that direction. And the last day, and the most favorite of mine and of many of us in Ananda, is meditation. What happens in meditation? We've heard the example, some of us. There's a steel bar and there's a magnet. In the steel bar, all the molecules are facing any which way. Whereas in a magnet, all the molecules are aligned in the north and the south direction. And that is what gives the magnet its magnetism. How do I magnetize the steel bar? By keeping it next to the magnet, so that its molecule starts aligning, or running electricity through it, so that its molecules are aligned in north and south direction, and the magnet and the steel bar becomes magnetized. Same thing is with us. Within us, we have an astral spine in which the life force flows. Now, in most of us, this astral spine, which is made of light and energy, which is not visible to the eyes, is right in front of our vertebral column. And it has energy centers which are called chakras. So many of us who are not really developed on the spiritual path, or not karmically very sattvic in our nature, so this astral spine is not alive, is not awakened, is in a way paralyzed, because there is no flow of the life force. But when we meditate, the life force, which was so far flowing outside to the material senses, through our senses, to the material objects, through our senses, starts flowing inward. It's redirected. When you meditate, it happens to everybody. That life force starts flowing inward. And not only inward, it starts flowing upward. When it is flowing upward, what happens? All our attachments, all our desires, all our likes and dislikes, all our tendencies, all these things which we want to get rid of and we don't know what to do, our strong habits, which are absolutely deeply engraved in the grooves of our mind. This life force starts flowing upward. And like a river in the flood, which carries all the debris, branches, leaves, and in a strong current merges in the ocean. So here too, with this, the great current of the life force, we carry all our attachments, all our negative thoughts, all our tendencies, all our bad habits, carry it up and bring it to the spiritual eye and offer it to the divine. And that is the way we remove attachments. So friends, for me this is some of the ways that we can develop non-attachment. So let me conclude today by saying what Swami Kriyananda said right in the beginning, that when we come to this material world and we face the pangs of the delusion, the winds of the delusion, friends, rise up. Human form is the only form where we have been given discrimination and willpower. Take baby steps. We can't remove everything, we can't achieve everything in one day. But begin taking baby steps by using discrimination and by using willpower. Victory will be ours. Joy to you.